Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Mike.
Happy Friday, Phil, and everybody else there listening to our wonderful, joyous podcast today. I'm fired up, so I'm excited to be with all of you. We've got, I don't know, a number of topics to talk about, and I'm sure Phil's going to surprise me with a few others that I haven't even thought of.
So what's got you so fired up, Mike? Is there anything going on with you?
Well, so my big news, I guess we'll start with that. My big news is that I have been invited, well, more than just invited. I'm racing the Baja 1000, which is, for those of you that are not familiar with that, is probably the most prestigious, biggest off-road desert race in the world by far. It's been going on for, I think this is the 67th edition, if I'm not mistaken. And I was asked by a team out of Texas, Houston, Texas, actually, called Baja Goats. And they are, and this is some serious business here. I mean, we've got a team of a dozen members on or 15 members on our direct team, and then we've got a pit crew of another dozen people. So it's like a 27-member production for this. I'm going to be flying into Ensenada in northern Mexico at the November 10th, and the race is that Friday. It's a 36-hour. You got to complete the race in 36 hours. This year. It's 860 miles. All off-road, continuous. So we have 4 drivers and 4 co-pilots because you've got to do pit and change crew because it's literally a 36-hour continuous race. So it's going to be all new to me, but the car is going to be wearing the Drive the Globe logo. So it's Baja Goats and Drive the Globe. It's going to be all nice up. As soon as I get the pit photos, I will be uploading that to socials, and we'll share it here on the podcast at some point. But super excited about that. Kind of came out of the blitz. Interesting how social media works because it was a guy that follows my YouTube channel, as a matter of fact, and and actually bought a truck similar to mine a couple months ago, and then anyways reached out to me and hey, would you like to be involved in the Baja 1000? And I was like, hell yeah, I would. I mean, this is a super opportunity, so I'm excited to be hanging out with the race crew for the entire week. I will be filming, I will be recording that, sending it out to social media, putting my tracker on for everybody that wants to follow us for race week. But and by the way, we're in the 1600 class, which, for those of you who are not familiar with the racing, it's divided into a number of different classes. And we're not in like the, I don't know how to say this nicely. We're not in like the lower, we're not that serious class. We're like in like the 4th class down. We're actually racing this for real. But for anybody that's familiar with this, you're really, I mean, even the pros at the top of the, the unlimited pro class, the car, those cars are, over $1 million. You're racing against the desert, right? You're racing against the terrain. You're racing against your will to survive, your tiredness. Because we're all look. Even though we're doing driver changes, we're the rest of the time we're riding around in chase cars and stuff. So we're not sleeping for 2 days. Like, the reality is that none of us on the team probably likely are going to be getting super amounts of rest. I know David and I are scheduled to drive in the car, I think the fourth crew of the when we leave, and I think our shift starts at I think our first shift, if you will, is like 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. nighttime through mountains. So that's going to be interesting to say the least. So anyways, super excited about that. That's my Drive the Globe news for all you guys are hearing it second. My Patreon subscribers heard about this a couple days ago, but you guys are second. I haven't announced it on my rest of my media yet.
I'm excited for you, Mike. That's a bucket list event to be involved in. It's a bucket list event to attend.
Yeah, yeah. And I've seen parts of it Just being down here in Mexico, they do every year. They do the course is a little bit different. Sometimes it's point to point. Sometimes it's a circuit. I'm excited. Next year's race is actually from Cabo San Lucas, a loop of the Baja California the southern part of the peninsula, back to Cabo San Lucas. So it's in my neck of the woods next year.
I was about to say, you can work from the crib.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I got to get through year one here.
All right. And for people that keep up with the podcast, we'll keep you up to date, and there'll be interviews with different members and all of that type of stuff. I'm excited and looking forward to this, Mike. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Mike, have you heard about the Louvre heist?
It's funny. I have, and I've actually, it wasn't too many years ago that I did a tour of the Louvre. And I remember that section, ironically, because it was funny because I was looking at a map after this break-in happened.
That was the first thing that hit me. I've been to the Louvre, Mike, but I don't know nothing about this section. I never seen that section. That was what I was going to start the podcast with. So talk about it.
Well, I mean, so if you've been to the Louvre, you know there's like the famous rooms where you got Mona Lisa in, and you got like, when I went, you've got that, I don't know, I call it the ugly glass triangle the pyramid thing. It's just nasty. It's ugly. It doesn't fit in with Paris, in my opinion, but whatever.
It don't even fit with the buildings around it.
No, not at all. And then you go down and you've got like that main, I want to say that main hall, like I think it's even underground if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, just for people, what we're talking about, if you've ever seen a movie or something and you see that big glass pyramid, all those buildings that you see around it, that whole like area is the museum. It's almost equivalent to like the Smithsonian museums on the mall.
Yep. So I got the opportunity one time. I've been there a couple times, but one time I remember going around, and the reason I say I kind of remember that section is because, like you said, Phil, they connect. It's almost like separate buildings, but they all connect. They've got flyovers or hallways or whatever, and that one was known for, that section was like the jewelry section, like right, and I think in particular my understanding is what they stole was mostly French jewelry, I think, from French monarchy stuff. And so it wasn't most of the tourists, I think, go to the paintings I call it the painting section of the museum. Those are the more famous. That's where areas. I went. Yeah, where you got the artwork and the some of the old, there's all sorts of stuff. There's sculpture. There's it depends on where you are in the thing. But anyways, the funny part of that was that was like it's a little bit off the beaten track, admittedly, because it's on the corner, and they took advantage of that because the room was on the corner of that building, right? And it was near a sidewalk. So they rolled up like a elevator to it, like a elevator ladder thing, and they just broke a window and went in. But by the way, Phil, they did this during the place was open. It was open, but because the museum is so huge, I think they did it like maybe 15 or 20 minutes after it opens. Everybody's got to come in through the same set of turnstiles and pay your ticket, all that stuff. So I think by the time, I don't think there was anybody in that area necessarily because it would take too long to walk there, on the inside to get there. So there wasn't a whole lot of action going on. And I think they were able to, it was a smash and grab, right? They went in, banged a bunch of cases, stole a bunch of jewelry, jumped out the window, went down the ladder, and took off in another van or something, right? That's my understanding.
Yeah. No, and then they hopped on motorcycles to get
motorcycles. Away. That's right. Yep.
I thought it was brilliant. It followed some of the basics of psychology of any crime. The idea of doing it in daylight during working hours. That was the most brilliant part to me, more so than any of the other stuff, because I'm confident there's a zillion people who saw them steal it and did not realize what was going on.
Well, they got video. So I actually saw a video of it from outside, and it looked like there was just a bunch of they had construction vests on and stuff. It looked like they were supposed to be there. So probably most of the people, probably including security, were like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna wash windows, or who knows what they're doing, right?" And then I saw some video inside, and there were actually some people coming around. I don't think anybody knew anything was going on even inside.
No, Mike, I think they've destroyed the movie industry. Every movie that you can think of where something was stolen from a museum, they've got lasers, they've got heat sensors, they got all of this.
Yeah, like Ocean's 11 or something, where they got like, they plotted it for 6 months in advance, and they did it. These guys, I mean, they were obviously professional, but they didn't need lasers and all this other high tech stuff. It was. So here's the guy had a hammer.
Here's the big question for you, Mike. Do you think they'll ever really catch who's behind it, or is this one of those heists that was never meant to be solved?
It's funny because there's been some major thefts over the years in some major museums that have never been solved, right? I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, and there was a huge, very famous Wells Fargo robbery where they robbed a thing. They believe they've nailed who it was. They were out of Puerto Rico, I think, but they never caught anybody. And they got away with, at the time, was the most amount of money, I think, in one bank robbery. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, so here's the thing with this kind of stuff. I mean, the only market for stolen art or stolen jewelry or any of this kind of stuff is somebody that is illegal in the first place is going to buy it, right? I mean, I don't know, like some high up guy in the cartel, or some Russian oligarch, or you're not going to just see this on eBay and you and I get to bid on it. That's not going to happen, right? So,
well, Mike, I think you're going to have a shared experience with me on this. I know several people during the course of my lifetime who they have like a little room that has a cache of souvenirs from trips they've gone on and things like that. And I can't verify it, but I'm pretty sure that they shouldn't have those things.
Right.
And I know more than one person.
Yep.
I don't even believe they're in France anymore, Mike. No. I'm with you on this. Somebody paid them. They knew who they were selling this stuff to. Yes.
Yeah, agree.
And I believe that within hours it was out of France, whether it was on a boat or a plane.
Yep.
And I believe that the person who paid for this has the money and the ability to. He probably has one of those. You at a certain level, your plane is in one of them airports where they don't even check your plane. And I forget the name of it. You can have a certain kind of pass.
Yep.
Like international plane, and they don't check none of your baggage.
I mean, my bet is that thing is somewhere in the Middle East, Africa, Russia, China.
Don't discount America, bro.
Could be. Could be.
Somebody with a lot of money, because you can't fence this stuff. And I'm hearing them on the news talking about, oh, well, these are rare diamonds and emeralds and blah, blah, blah. And they're talking as though these guys are going to go to a jeweler and break up the diamonds and sell them and everything. That's too risky.
No, there's some wealthy Bitcoin guy out there that went to the museum and was like, damn, my girlfriend would like that. Let me hire some guys to break into the Louvre. That's more likely.
Mark, I think I've met guys like this. It might be sillier than that. He may have went to the Louvre, saw a crown, and been like, man, I'd like to wear that crown when I'm sitting in my office.
Yep.
And he literally wears it in his office.
Yep. I believe that.
SpaceX just launched its 10,000th Starlink satellite, meaning Elon Musk now controls about 2/3 of everything orbiting Earth. Think about that. One man with more satellites than every country combined. They're bringing global internet, sure, but they're also burning up hundreds of deorbiting satellites every year. Mike, is this massive constellation a triumph for innovation or one citizen with too much power?
Well, from somebody speaking to you on Starlink right now, I think it's a necessity. However, I think it's a temporary thing. I think eventually they're going to figure out how to do it with probably less satellites, possibly, or some other way. But for now, it's the way that works. I mean, so I'll give you an example. For those of you out there that don't really understand how it works, when I go outside here, right outside my truck, at any given time, my array that I'm picking up the Starlink is tracking 4 satellites at one time. So we have what they call parallel band, where there's by the time one reaches the horizon, say in the east, the other one is up in the west. But we've got 2 bands, one slightly to the north and one slightly to the south of us. So there's duplicity involved in it. And that's not how it was always. I remember when I first got Starlink, yeah, it was a little bit harder to you had to point your dish the right direction in order to pick it up, accurately. At this point, you can flat mount your dish no matter what you do. You could point it any which direction and it works great. So there's a lot of satellites up there, and they've had to increase the amount of satellites because of the demand of the traffic. The network traffic got so high that they had to just keep adding more and more satellites. So in big metropolitan areas like where you are, Phil, they have to have more satellites there because there's more people hitting that part of the sky. And that's been the challenge. And to answer your question, I think Elon Musk largely controls shit. Elon Musk controls space at this point. Okay, he controls the satellite. He's got the contract with NASA to send people to the moon. They're working on Mars. The government, our government, the most powerful government in the world, doesn't really have an ability to put a rocket into orbit without him. I mean, it's there's you could argue there's too much power in the hands of one guy. I mean, it's not hard to make that argument.
I agree with everything you said, Mike, but I just extended further. He's got control of the skies and the ground. He's a major vehicle distributor or cell manufacturer. And they're talking about in the near future, he's going to get into the phone business. So you got the satellites and you got the phones. He's basically got control of all communications throughout the world.
Yep.
Plus, he's got AI. Plus, he's got the robots that are coming up. If you've been keeping up with his robots, they have progressed by leaps and bounds since those first ones that you could pick them with your finger and they'll fall over. Yep. They got balance and they can move.
Oh man, you see, I was watching something the other day, and there was these running. They look like I don't know what they look like, some kind of alien things, but they were running. I mean, running like at full speed, like faster than a track runner could do it. Pretty cool.
Yeah. If something happens to Starlink or Musk makes a bad call, whose regions could lose internet overnight? Is what I always think about.
Well, here's the problem. In reality, he controls who has access and who doesn't, right? So they have blackouts in certain countries.
Yes.
He can pick and choose who has the ability to communicate. And the scary part of this whole thing is now governments are using them.
He has that kind of control over allies and over people who are enemies. So he could literally affect a war.
Yep.
Wow.
Most of the drones, forget about most, probably all of the drones that are flying over in the war in Ukraine right now are being controlled through Starlink.
Well, I thought I read something about that attack where they made it deep into Russia and destroyed those planes. That's exactly what they did was use Starlink.
Yep.
Without Starlink, because they would have been able to track the drones. They had to get close enough and then distribute them, and they used Starlink.
Yep.
So yeah, hey, it's already happening.
Yep.
So what do you think about him having that much power, Mike? I mean, I could run off a list of things that there are third world countries and little villages and stuff that he's brought internet access to and convenience. So it's hard to just say bad Elon, but I didn't.
And, from riding around Baja here, I went to some of the most remote places on Earth, to be honest with you. And you'll have a rancher that's out there, that living subsistence living off of the land, but he's got Starlink. You'll see it. You'll see some rancher out in the middle of nowhere that's got a Starlink running off a battery and a solar panel, and he's got communication with the outside world that he never had before. So,
oh yeah, there are lots of people now, at least in America. I don't know outside of America, but at least in America, there are a lot of people who have a viable option other than Starlink, and they've chosen Starlink. There are people who can get satellite, or they could get cable, or a local telephone company, and they have found that the Starlink is better for them.
Yep. Going back to my Baja 1000, we're running Starlink on the car. So this is how it's infiltrating everything. We got it on the race car. We've got it on the chase teams. This is how we're communicating, and they're tracking the whole race is run through Starlink.
See, if he had a team that was being involved in the Baja, he could make sure they win. He could just delay y'all signal for a second.
Could be. Well, I hope we're on his side then.
Mike, it feels like we're hearing this kind of story way too often. A potential tragedy stopped just in time. In Atlanta, police arrested a convicted felon inside the airport before he could make it back to his vehicle, where a loaded AR-15 was waiting. Now, what makes this one different is that it was his own family who made the agonizing decision to report him. And in doing so, they may have saved dozens of lives. Mike, what drives a family to make that kind of life-changing call?
Ethics. I mean, at this point, unfortunately, well, we've talked about this on the podcast before. This is a mental health crisis that's very widespread. So I think at this point, families are starting to turn on their own because they recognize that, one of their own is mentally not well.
So, Mike, I researched this and I talked to some officers, and it's a rarity for family to turn in people no matter how heinous their crimes are.
But you're starting to see it more often.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like the third time I've seen that.
Well, that's where I was headed. There seems to be more of a repercussion in social media about not speaking up.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you're gonna get blacklisted with them, because eventually they're gonna get caught. And I think that might be part of the reality, Phil, is that people realize, or the family realize in this case, this guy's gonna get caught eventually. Nobody seems to get away with this. So when they do get caught, now it's gonna get connected back to my Facebook, to my Instagram, to my YouTube, to whatever, and I'm going down with them.
So, Mike, I think that there should be more protection or support for people who jump over that line and make the call.
For sure.
But I mean, like, visible. There, maybe some dignitary shaking their hands, them getting a key to the city. I know that sounds overboard and everything, but there needs to be a strong signal sent that we support you. This is a good thing. Good things will happen if you tell on this family member.
Well, it's always been a tradition in law enforcement to use the community and the public to help with investigating anything. So that's an
But there's a
extension of
stigma
that.
to it now.
There is, but that there's an extension of that to bring in family in particular that are related to the person that may or may not be committing the crime. So, I think that we have to get back to a scenario where it's an honorable thing. You might, who knows? I mean, the way we work as Americans now, you get a reward or awards or money or whatever compensation to help the police. It's like I just saw another. You probably saw it as well. They just found a tree stand near where Donald Trump lands in Florida in Palm Beach Airport. So I mean, this is somebody else. It looks like it was attempting to do an assassination. So it's getting past the point that law enforcement is going to be able to handle all of this. The public needs to be involved in policing our country.
And not let your political ideology make your decision for you.
Agreed. Shouldn't matter.
If you're on the right and somebody on the right is doing something, tell on them. If somebody's on the left and you're on the left, tell on them. That should have nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Because I think like some of these other mass shootings that we've had, I think that the reason we haven't gotten much information about the mass shootings is because people are sticking to their political affiliations and keeping their mouth shut.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. They're protecting the guilty.
Mike, when you look at the three-way mayoral race in New York City, we have Zohran Mamdani, we've got Andrew Cuomo, and we've got Curtis Sliwa. Is that his name? Sliwa.
Yeah, I think so. Curtis Sliwa, yep.
Curtis Sliwa all running. To me, it really highlights how few truly qualified, high-caliber candidates are willing to step up for this job. Being mayor of New York is almost like being a mini president of the United States when you think about it, yet you get none of the billionaires interested in running. So, Mike, what do you think is the biggest barrier keeping highly successful business people that live right there in the city from running for mayor or even for other major offices?
Thankless job. They don't get a benefit out of it. And the only benefit that politicians generally get out of the job, I hate to say it, is the illegal side, the illegal benefits that they get, insider trading, people wanting to give them stuff, free this, free that, all of that kind of stuff. And the problem with that is if they're wealthy, educated people, they don't really need it in the first place, right? So they've already got billions of dollars or millions of dollars, or they're well educated and they have good jobs, or whatever the reason is. So the problem is what in turn it attracts these underqualified people that, I'm gonna rain on AOC's parade again. When she first ran for Congress, she didn't have a pot to piss in, and now somebody, I think I saw an article a couple weeks ago that she was worth $24 million or something like that. So if you are a regular street Joe in New York and you could barely pay your rent, and somebody says, "Hey, maybe you can run and win," and in 3 years from now you're going to have $25 million. You're like, where do I sign that piece of paper? So I think the motivations are the problem. I mean, you've got Sliwa running, who is, he looks like a crazy dude with his little red beret thing on or whatever the hell. He's nuts. He's got zero chance of winning, right? And then you got. I think the race has been summed up the most accurately, to be honest, by Donald Trump. And he was asked, would you try to convince Sliwa to get out of the race so that way, Cuomo would have a better chance? And Donald Trump basically said, look, it looks like even if Sliwa got out of the race, Cuomo is going to lose to Mamdani. Even Trump said that. And at the end of the day, he was like, "Well, I'd prefer to have a Democrat over a communist, but I really don't want either one of them." and the irony of the whole thing is, Trump's not that far off. I mean, they're the only guy of the three that's really qualified probably to run the city is Cuomo, because he's got executive experience as the governor. The other two don't really have shit for experience.
Mm-hmm.
But Cuomo was caught doing all sorts of illegal shit already.
Yeah,
I mean,
he had to resign for immoral stuff.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and possibly criminal stuff. Remember, he had the nursing home shit going on too with the COVID thing. So I don't know. I mean,
a lot of people are calling him a senior citizen killer.
Right.
So how much do you think social media scrutiny and past posts and personal histories is preventing candidates from running? Because Mike, everybody, if this social media comes after you, they can find some statement. They could find some statement I made last week on this show and ruin me.
I'm quite sure our podcast has eliminated us indefinitely and permanently from running for any office on any side. There's zero chance that you or I get elected to jack shit. We're not even getting elected to be like, heads of sanitation in some small podunk city. We're not getting that. We're not winning anything. I mean, that's the reality.
We haven't even been picking a side. And
well, that's the real problem. That's the biggest problem, is that we don't pick a side. I mean, look at this guy in Maine that's running for I think he's running for, I don't think it was Senate. He's running as a Democrat for something, and he had a tattoo that he got in, he was a military guy, and he got a tattoo.
The Nazi tattoo.
The Nazi tattoo, right? But it wasn't like a swastika or anything. It was some other thing that some drunk soldier in Czechoslovakia or wherever the hell he was didn't know what it was. It just looked cool. Didn't bring it up. Didn't think about it. Quite frankly, I don't think he even thought about it. And then somehow somebody got an old picture of him with this thing on his chest, and all of a sudden it blew up into this big thing about how he's anti-Semitic or something. But the reality is like, there's probably no, I mean, I don't support the guy, but I don't think there was any connection to it at all. But it proves your point. Like, whether or not he said something, did something, got a tattoo, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think social media plays a huge role. At this point, we could probably only start to elect people that lived in the woods like Ted Bundy.
So I got a question, Mike, about the tattoo guy.
Yep.
He was an adult when he got the tattoo, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think he was like 18. Yeah, he was like in the military, but yeah.
Okay, I don't have any problem with him getting the tattoo, but when you pay for what you do when you're younger.
Yeah,
so I'm simply looking at it as, I don't want to vote for somebody who put something on their arm and they say they didn't know what it was. Okay, so you are comfortable with the idea of, my excuse is I wasn't aware and naive about it. So I don't want that kind of behavior. I'm not voting for a person with that kind of behavior. I want somebody to take accountability.
Well, I agree. I mean, if you're thinking about, putting a permanent thing on your body, and you're just like, so he says, which, by the way, I believe him. He says,
I don't.
Well, no, listen. He says, I got drunk, we went out, and we got tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, he probably did. But that's stupid.
So I believe that the getting drunk may have given him made him brave enough to do it, or have people encourage him to do it. But I believe him and everybody that was with him knew what it was when he put. I've been around guys like him all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's also possible. But even if it wasn't,
they even told him what it was right before they started inking. Even
if they didn't, though, I am a fan of you've got to take responsibility for your own actions. So
that's what I'm talking about.
I am not going to a tattoo thing and getting a picture of something that's on the wall just randomly, because that's what he said.
Totally.
And not verifying what the hell it is. Or it'd be like going to China and getting, Chinese letters tattooed on yourself.
People
and
do it all the time.
It says I'm a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like
that has happened.
Be an idiot. I'm sure it's happened. So you got to be an idiot to do that in the first place. And by the way, if you're going to be that kind of an idiot, yeah, I don't want to vote for you. Who the hell wants that guy running anything?
And this is bigger than him. Something that I have a feeling about, Mike. In our society, a man or a woman who's made the right decisions and done the right thing, you don't get credit for nothing.
Mm-mm.
But if I had a hard upbringing, maybe spent some time in jail or did something wrong and recovered from it, I can write a book. I can go on a book tour. I can start a church. It seems like people, you don't get credit for always doing the right thing.
Absolutely, because it's boring.
So what I'm getting to is like, I don't have no tattoos. I specifically, and I wanted them when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically didn't get them because I was like, okay, this may not work out for me in the end. This may work against me in some way in the future. Okay, so if I allow him to be excused, that makes me just like nothing. I'm the one that should get the excuses and the credit. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
I totally understand, yeah.
I get no credit for being intelligent enough not to put stuff on my body that I didn't know about.
Right.
This guy gets to be whatever office he's running for.
Right.
No, I'm not with that at all.
Yep. Understand. I get that.
Mike, this latest ICE operation in South LA sounds like something out of a bad action movie. Only this one left a deputy marshal and a TikTok streamer shot in the middle of a neighborhood near a high school. What went wrong here? Are these so-called defensive shots really part of the standard federal procedure, or has this become another example of reckless enforcement in immigrant communities? Should ICE agents be trained under the same engagement policies as local police departments that prohibit shooting at moving vehicles?
The whole problem to this whole thing is that where is the limit? Where's the line? So with any kind of law enforcement action, there's a public viewpoint on where there's a line, I guess. There's a line in the sand, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because any kind of action taken at some point has to be supported by somebody, right? Otherwise, you're simply dealing with a dictatorship government that is out to really kill its people unless they. So in America we have a line, and the immigration thing, we've talked about this on the podcast before, is very difficult because I think there's a large portion of Americans that do believe in immigration enforcement. And then there's also a large part of the population that believes in doing it the right way, whatever the hell that means, without violence, without some of the stuff, or they want more pinpointed action, right? They want to take out the worst. They want to start at the top, right? They want to take out the bad guys first, then the second bad guys, and work it down. And they're not really interested in the guy that is working for $6 an hour at the ice cream stand, and has been just supporting his, subsistence living for the last 20 years in America. That's not the guy we're looking at. He's breaking the law, let's be clear, but that's not who I think most people are not out for the guy working at the ice cream shack. So where that line in the sand is part of this problem. So what you're seeing is because this thing has become so political, there's just a court case allowing them into Seattle, right, or whatever, and we had ICE action going on in L.A., and we've had Washington D.C. with it's tied up in courts, which, by the way, is largely political too. So, like everything else, it's become so political that you're not getting cooperation. And we talked earlier tonight, or earlier this afternoon, about getting the public involved in helping with law enforcement. But if you've got 50% of the people in America that are intentionally not supporting law enforcement, including, by the way, major politicians like Gavin Newsom or the mayor of Chicago or whatever, now it's turned into politics. So I don't know how you deal with that. Unfortunately, the consequences are that you're going to get that kind of shit happening.
Mike, I have a different perspective on this whole thing about the interactions between citizens and ICE. I've seen the same interactions with police departments, and there was no issue about it. I've seen police officers detain people who they later did not arrest, but they were suspicious of them. I've seen people get in the way of the police when they are making an arrest, and the police do whatever they need to do to stop them. And we have no issue with it. I have no issue with it. So I'm not going to be more concerned about people that are going against the government and some people who are not from the United States being treated the same way I see people get treated all the time.
Yep. Well, and that's the problem is ICE specifically has become a political hot potato. Mm-hmm. Whereas really they're like you just said, they're really no different than other law enforcement agencies, except that they have a really bad stigma against them at this point.
I'm tired of hearing people on CNN and MSNBC or whatever, and they be like, are you saying that you support them arresting this man and taking him away from his children? And I'm like, I've seen that happen many times.
Exactly.
That's what happens. Let's say they get rid of all the immigrants, and get rid of all the ICE, just regular everyday America. You will have thousands of occurrences a day where that happens.
Yep.
Get over yourself. So I am never going to be for treat the immigrant better than you treat us, and y'all don't treat us that good.
And I think that's where this political hot potato thing is occurring. You're going to hear more about my viewpoint right now, or not right now, in a little bit. You've got another topic that's going to set me off, and I'm going to say more about what we were just talking about, kind of.
You give the particulars about what's happening, and you give your explanation, because I know you want to talk about this.
Okay, so this is the point at which the podcast that all liberals and all Democrats pay attention for a second, because I'm about to diss you all.
Oh,
this might be the most ridiculous thing that I have actually seen the left get involved in, is this White House demolition. And the reason I'm going to say that is because they've equated it completely. Okay. For those of you that have been buried in the sand, the east wing of the White House this week has been knocked down. Okay. And in its place, they're going to build a ballroom. That they can have meetings with foreign dignitaries and have White House dinners and everything. And for those of you that are also not realizing this, that actually has been requested by, I believe, every single president of both parties since the late 50s. So this is not anything new. Now, the Democrats have latched onto this in such a fervor that I've never seen any ridiculousness in my entire life. So we've talked about lots of politics on this podcast, but this is the most fucking dumbest thing I have ever seen from the left ever, period, end of fucking story. The East Wing of the White House is not the fucking White House, okay? Just to be clear on this. It is not even a historic fucking building, okay? It was built in, I think, 1942, okay? And it was built actually shitty because it was built for one reason and one reason only, was to hide the underground bunker stuff that they were putting in the 40s. I think it was Roosevelt added the East Wing, okay? So this is the Democrats are portraying it as if Donald Trump is knocking the White House down. Not true, okay? Just simply ridiculous. And I listened to MSNBC today for like 20 minutes, and they're like crying, and they're talking about how they walked through, because when you went on a tour, by the way, I've been on the tour, okay? I've been to the White House. I've been on the tour. I've gone through the East Wing. It's a shithole. And you know, it's got those tiled floors. It wasn't even done well, okay?
It's not an impressive building at all.
At all. And so you know, and then something else that everybody needs to understand. This is not the first time that the White House has been significantly altered, okay?
Not
the White
close.
House itself, we're talking the main building, okay? I had somebody from MSNBC today showing pictures of the East Wing destroyed with the crane and whacking it. And, oh my God, this is Representative Donald Trump, the dictator, is destroying the people's house and all this bullshit. Non-fucking sensical. So Franklin Roosevelt, no, it was Harry Truman. Harry Truman completely 1,000% gutted the entire inside of the White House. I mean, just took cranes and destroyed there was no White House, okay? I don't think people understand this. But this is not in the 1700s or the 8. This is not old. This is in the early 50s. The inside of the White House was completely empty. If you walked in there, all you would see is a empty box, like you were in where they're about to build out Macy's in New York City or something. Empty box with steel girders. Was not there, okay? So people do have zero understanding of history, because they're like, this is the people's house, and it's been through hundreds of years. No, there's no part of the, first of all, there's no part of any part of the White House that goes back that far. The building burned the hell down to the ground in the 1800s, right. Okay? So I have heard the Democrats come out with the biggest load of fucking bullshit that I've ever heard in my fucking life about this White House thing, okay? So not one mention of the benefit that it will serve when they rebuild the building. And by the way, they're rebuilding the building in modern, you know, architectural, you know, compliance, where, you know, it's not going to have asbestos, which the other one did. It's not going to, you know, all this stuff. It's going to be built well, I'm sure. And the only reason that they hate this whole thing is because Donald fucking J. Trump's doing it. If Obama was doing it, and by the way, Obama, MSNBC yesterday ran a clip of the White House being with a bucket destroying it. They fucked up. They ran the clip. It was Obama doing it,
right?
Because Obama did a bunch of renovation on. I think that if I'm not mistaken, it was over on the West Wing, possibly.
Yes,
but if you look at an aerial view of the White House, you've got the White House in the middle, the building, which comes from the early 50s, okay? Let's just be on the same page here, guys, except for the outside, and that was all replaced too. And then you got the East Wing that was built in, like I said, the 40s, and you got the West Wing that was built. They were all built at separate times, and they're not super historic. I mean, Nixon put a bowling alley in. There was a pool. I think Gerald Ford put a pool in. I mean, there's been stuff done throughout the years. I don't know what to tell you, but this got me my panties in a bunch because this is just indicative of nonsensical political bullshit. Like, and it just happens to be I'm on a rant about the Democrats, but it could just as easily be Republicans ranting on, if it was Obama and the Republicans were ranting about it, it'd be just equally as bad. But the undertaking of this is for the benefit of America and the future of all presidents, not just Trump. Now, do I think for a second that Trump's not an egotistical, maniac that wants his name on the room? Of course he does. By the way, every single president that's ever done any change to the White House felt the exact same way, and it wants to put their name on something big about changing the White House. Trump just had the balls to actually do it. And the other thing I hear is everybody bitching and moaning on the left saying, the government is closed right now and people are starving and this and all, whatever, blah, 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 blah. This is public. This is privately funded. This is not being paid by your tax dollar.
So,
okay, Phil, I'm done ranting for a second.
I have only two things to say about it. The first one we kind of touched upon when we were discussing New York and why they can't get a decent candidate. This story, it sheds light on what I think is the weakest point in our democracy, and that is being able to acquire quality candidates. And this is indicative of it. We're the only country who thinks we're supposed to be cheapskates when it comes to the presidency and how it's visually consumed by the masses. Whereas other countries, they'll be living in huts, but they make sure they want that king or that dictator or that leader, they want him to be looking opulent to the world. And that's how I feel. I want when China comes to some event here, them being like, oh, wow. I don't want them to be laughing like, oh, I have a better ballroom in my house.
Phil, Obama set a record, I believe. It was Obama that had so many White House events. Mm-hmm. And if you see pictures of them, we had people, foreign dignitaries, famous people, King, Queen of England, whatever. All these people came over, and they've got them in tents, white plastic tents, mm-hmm. with air machines, with blowing in air conditioning and heat and whatever, like you would find at a wedding. If we went to a wedding somewhere, I mean, so there's no argument that could be made, in my opinion, that we don't need what he's doing, because but let's just be clear, what it's replacing is an inadequate building that was being underutilized. They were using the theater, I think, as a coat room, and they were using the entrance there was for the White House tours, and they said that the first lady had an office over there, but she never used it, and it was junky. So
forget all that, Mike. Listen, this is the United States of America. The White House should be 5 times as big as it is. The ballroom that they crying about should be 3 times as large. Every country, they should be looking forward to their trip to come here because they can't wait to see the opulence of where the president of the leader of the free world lives and executes his judgments. That's
the problem. Yes. And the problem I have with this entire controversy is that if it was somebody else doing it.
No, I don't agree with that one. No. We don't like the idea of our government officials getting anything extra.
Well, yeah,
all the way from an alderman to the president.
But this is multiple problems going on here, because you've got the fact that it's Trump. So it's a political thing. You've got what you're talking about, the opulent thing, the contrast between being opulent and being a regular Joe. You've got that going on. Then you've got the people that are being misled, that are saying this is a historical problem when in reality it's not. So you got multiple things going on in this. But I'm going to tell you what: if it was a different president, you'd still get various people bitching about it, but not at the level that they're doing it now. Holy hell.
They did it on the one that you mentioned. It was just as heavy when,
I remember
when Barack Obama was giving all of those parties, and his parties was in the plastic tent. They didn't know $100 million nothing. And they was having an issue. Hey, he's got Beyonce and these leaders they were all over that. That was 50% of Fox News's coverage of the president every time he threw a party.
Agreed.
The other side, no matter what whoever the other side is not going to look kindly toward you enjoying yourself, let alone the opulence part. They don't want you to enjoy yourself. They don't want you to have no free time. They don't like it when you're on the golf course. Whatever president is in the golf course, and for Barack it was the basketball court. People cringe when they seeing you enjoy yourself on any level. That's here in America.
Just a load of shit. And
it is.
I'm tired of it. Let's just say this. And the polarization,
we'll never get anybody qualified as long as that's the case.
Nope. And that's the part that is driving me insane about this. But this is taking it to some sort of new height of just nonsensical bullshit. I just oh my God.
Mike, you got to understand how low level the presidency looks to qualified candidates. I can get $400,000 and have everything about my life ran through and scrutinized, or I could take this other job and get $400 million. Right. And if they decide to fire me, I'll get $200 more million, and I get a plane, and I get all of these things. So why would I want to be a president?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because you're a narcissist, like Donald Trump, like Barack Obama, like Bill Clinton. They're all narcissists, and They have the ability to get into that office. And you're right; they're not going to get their $400 million. Well, they actually are, but
but they got to do it illegally.
They got to do it illegally, but they're also going to get, in Donald Trump's case, for the rest of time. Donald Trump was the president that built this ballroom, and Barack Obama's the guy that put that fountain in over there. And you know what I mean? So they get their rewards in a different way. And as people, as general citizens, we don't get that. Generally, we don't get it. I mean, I get it from a standpoint. I get it. Trump didn't need the presidency to make money. He already had money, but he's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac, and these projects. Look, there's no part of me that doesn't believe he's sitting there snickering and laughing that he just knocked down the entire East Wing and is going to build this gigantic ballroom, and that he's the only guy that's getting it done, and and in one weekend he managed to knock the whole thing down. And trust me, and that, by the way, is why the left can't stand it. They can't stand it, and that's why that woman that I'm listening to on MSNBC, she's got a nauseous stomach, because you know what? Donald Trump beat her fucking ass again. And this is week after week after week after week. And I agree that it's going to be hard to get good politics. I get it. Nobody wants this shit except for these kinds of people, and that's what we're going to have to deal with.
Mike, things just got even more complicated in Portland. The Trump administration just got partial approval from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to deploy the Oregon National Guard, overturning one judge's block, but still waiting on another to clear. This opens a major constitutional question. How much authority does the president really have to send state troops into cities that don't want them?
The easy answer to that is every day that goes by, the presidency has more power.
So do
I
you
think 10 years ago, the president had no power to do that. I think today, they're pushing the envelope. They're pushing the laws. They're in maybe some cases, you could argue they're breaking the law.
So do you think the ruling expands presidential power in a way that could reshape how federal authority interacts with state control, especially when protests or unrest are involved?
Yes.
I think this is the change. I think this is the turning point.
Yes.
This is a major turning point in presidential power and what powers a president will actually use. Because these aren't new powers.
So if you're generally worried about that, so all those people that I just called out for the last 20 minutes on the left for being a bunch of babies and talking about and lying to me about the historic value of the East Wing and all this other nonsense because you fucking hate the Orange Man so bad. Forget about all that. And you are correct when you state that he is becoming a dictator and changing the powers of the central government and changing the powers of the presidency. You are right. And if you don't like it, you better do something. Instead of talking about the orange Cheeto and how he's building a banquet
do
hall,
stuff like what? Be clear on that, Mike.
You need to. The only way that you're going to win in the United States, still to this day, and it's fading quickly, is to be able to vote. That's your power, to be able to vote somebody else into power. That's how you're going to win.
I just don't want nobody misinterpreting saying you got to do something.
Nope. That's how you're going to win. And that problem is that's not what they're doing. They're not. They're not. You're not throwing me any good candidates. You're not giving me. You're not. Oh, man, I'm fired up. You're not going to give me Kamala Harris and tell me that that's going to be your solution of how you're going to beat the orange Cheeto, and that's how you're going to solve this whole problem with the National Guard and him destroying the East Wing of the White House. You're going to lose. Every time you're going to lose. You're going to keep losing. You bring up another candidate that's going to be like her, you're going to lose again. You're going to keep losing. You are a loser. So you better damn well figure out how to win. And we should get every single person that's on the left right now listen to this podcast. Because I'm telling you, the solution is very simple. Get good candidates that can win, that support what you believe in. I'm okay. Look, I can disagree with viewpoints and I can agree with viewpoints, but I'm always going to agree with finding a candidate that can win, regardless of whether I'm on their team or not. Like so Zoran Mandami, I think he's a nutball, but he's figured out, it looks like, how to win. Well, perfect. So if you like him, get more of that guy. If you don't like Cheeto Man, get more of the other guy. So, but you got to get the other guy. And right now on a national level, and I'm talking to you, the left wing right now, you don't have somebody that can beat Donald Trump, and he's succeeding. And Phil asked me earlier, do I think it's taking away rights? And do I think, I think eventually he's going to manipulate the court system so badly and nominate potentially unqualified people for court positions, judges.
He's already doing that.
That eventually he's going to completely control the judicial system. And at that point, if you've got control of the judiciary, you've got control of the House, and you've got control of the presidency, you're a dictator by definition. And I know there's a lot of people on the left that are like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Well, you better do something about it then.
Mike, I'm tired of. Let me bag up. This is and get something personal off. Okay. Being a black man, people feel like I am obligated to like the things that Democrats are doing, and I'm obligated to be on that side. And so I get different versions of the same conversations that you get. And people are all hitting me with this king thing.
Oh yeah, no kings, yeah.
But it is amazing to me how delusional they are about the idea, because my retort is always, if you really feel like he's trying to be a king and you're all about this no kings thing, then how could you be a Democrat? And then I just shut up and they look confused. and and then after they finish looking confused for a few seconds, I always hit them with, I'm like, the person you had running for president, didn't nobody vote for them to be running for president? And you talking about him who got voted in by a majority and majority electoral votes. You calling him a king, but the person who was running from him is the one that was appointed. How hypocritical, how, what is it, dissonance that they.
Yeah, I mean, for Phil, it's simple. To me, it's just come down to winning or losing. And from what I can tell, over the past 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
the left has been on a trajectory of losing.
Yes.
They've had a couple wins.
Because they keep sticking to stupidness.
Same playbook.
There's no logic in almost everything that is a big deal to them. When they explain it, it's just, Mike, you can say something to me and be totally wrong, but you could say it in a logical manner. It could still be logical. They argue points and there's no logic to it. There's no logic into the conversation about illegal immigrants, and the first thing out your mouth is, well, they haven't broken the law.
Right.
What?
Exactly. I mean, that's the problem. And so you have to create a winning team. And I think they were misled because they think that they won when Joe Biden was elected. And in reality, they didn't win. They just didn't lose. Meaning that there was a backlash. Look, when you've got significant change, let's just call Donald Trump significant change for a second. And he after his first term, it was too much change too fast. So the backlash was like, whoa, whoa. So what happened is Donald Trump lost. That's the best way I'm going to say it. Donald Trump lost. Joe Biden didn't win. Donald Trump lost. So the Democrats were mistaken in their thought that they just won something, but in reality, they just won they won like the free costume jewelry out of the dentist's little treasure chest, because the problem is that they didn't win. They actually got sabotaged. They actually got a guy in that was the worst person that they could have possibly put up there, and then people went, oh shit. Talk about backlash. I mean, might have been backlash against Trump, but now there was like, holy crap, we got this guy in here that's so bad, doesn't represent anything. And in reality, I'd argue that putting Biden in for 4 years was the Republicans. That was maybe the Republicans' biggest win that they've ever had was Joe Biden winning, because it set him up now for unleashed, uninhibited, uncontrolled Donald Trump. And honestly, I'm going to agree with the left on this. It's a threat to democracy. There's no question in my mind that he is a threat to democracy, because he's succeeding, and you and I have talked about this a million times. He's succeeding on such a high level. And when any one individual succeeds on such a high level, there's too much power invested in that. And everybody else, by definition, is losing because Trump's winning.
So, Mike,
give him another term, he'll knock the West Wing down.
Mike, I could see him building a whole nother White House and
Yep.
coming up with another color.
Exactly. So, I
So,
mean,
should states have the final say over their National Guard units unless a formal rebellion or emergency is declared? That's the ultimate question.
should they? Yeah, but I mean, I think give it a little bit more time. I think they're not going to. I think the National Guard is on its way to becoming federalized and out of the state's hands. I mean, that's what I see from these court judgments.
I I guess I'm being technical. I kind of sort of agree with you. I think they'll get their paychecks from the state,
Hmm.
and day to day it will appear as though they are working for the state.
Yep.
But when the press calls, they must listen.
And I think I said this last week. I maybe we're getting closer to a point at which if there's enough backlash where Donald Trump is, and he's very smart with this kind of thing, he will just form a new division of the military and call it something new that will replace essentially the role that he's trying to use the National Guard for. So we won't have this argument about the National Guard because it'll be the National Federated Task Force of something. He'll make up some name for it.
So, Mike, uh, there was a time when Made in America meant quality, at least in my lifetime.
Mhm.
Craftsmanship, it meant pride. And buying from China, it usually meant that you were choosing a lesser product, something lesser than, because that price was just so attractive. But I think the tariffs have exposed how much what I just said has flipped.
Yep.
You still have people saying that there's no tariffs. I mean, that the tariffs aren't affecting the consumer. Well, people who say that, all that tells me is you haven't bought something recently from China.
Right.
My favorite company to bring up, DJI. Yeah, their prices on their website are still the same, but you can't buy it from their website.
Right.
You have to go to a third party, and those third parties, their prices right now are
Way
about
higher.
double,
Yep.
which is 100%. The tariffs are 100% now. So if you want to buy something from China, the tariffs are affecting you.
Absolutely. No, they are. I see it.
It's clear that China's got the upper hand when it comes to manufacturing, efficiency, scale, and cost. They can build almost anything faster and cheaper than we can. And right now, America just doesn't have the infrastructure to compete at that level. Rebuilding factories, training workers, and securing supply chains all take time. And during that time, it's the average America who's feeling it the most. So, Mike, my question is, how long would it actually take before we can make everything we need right here and at home again?
I don't think that's possible. I mean, I do think
Wow.
you're looking at 10 to 20 years, really, but like, I don't think that it's
Wow.
necessarily possible or necessarily the smart answer. I think diversification is the right answer. I think certain things we can make in house, certain things that we can continue to have made in China, certain things should be, but we should look at it differently. Right now, over the last 25 years, cheap meant China. I think we need to change the word cheap to China, Vietnam, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Mexico, wherever. I mean, we've got to diversify where our stuff comes from. I think that's the key. Are we ever going to make 10-cent widgets in America? I don't think so.
But Mike, we've let so much of our manufacturing base slip away overseas that we can't even produce enough basic materials without importing them.
That's right.
During peacetime, that's just economics, like what you're saying. But if we ever face a major war with a nation like China, one that's been building its industrial might for decades, where does that leave us? Are we even capable of sustaining a conflict like that anymore?
Not without allies. No, and that's, I think, one of the weaknesses of the Donald Trump's philosophy of being an isolationist. Isolationism doesn't work in 2025. So, if we ever had to split up into a quote World War III as an example, look at go back to World War II. We started making, there was a mad rush on metal, on, anything that, we needed to do to build airplanes or aircraft carriers or whatever it was. So right now we're in a really poor position when it comes to that kind of stuff because our resources, even if we manufacture the stuff, the raw ingredients aren't coming from here. So that's where it's a challenge.
Well, I've been looking at the new deal between Donald Trump and Australia, the rare earth materials and the submarine arrangements.
Yep.
And honestly, I think it's a smart win. We're signing off on some submarines to go to Australia. And while on the surface, it looks like a straight trade, the reality is we're placing their subs in the region as a first line of defense to keep China in check. So here's my question to you. How do you see us balancing giving Australia those subs while still ensuring our own strategic advantage in the Indo-Pacific? So we've got a lifeline as far as the materials you're talking about. We just made this deal with the submarines. I'm just basically asking you.
I think you got to do more of those deals. I think it's going to take more than Australia. It's going to take whoever some other major players. You've got to create a worldwide, and this is why I'm against isolationism, that you got to create a worldwide network of resources.
Well, I mentioned this a couple of months ago. We were already, even before this rare material deal came up, we were already building like our two biggest, most powerful submarines in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was supposed to be for them, and I think one of them is supposed to be for us. And the deal is that they basically use it to go around Australia and protect us.
Yep.
So us sending these additional subs and getting the rare earth, I think it's like a super duper win for us.
Agreed.
Because we're not only getting the rare earth stuff, we're not only it's not only good for our economy to be building these subs, but they're being literally put into place for us.
Yeah,
even though we're giving them to us.
It's future sustainability and having the natural resources is important. Look, you saw
it's a move toward World War III to me, or at least being proactive in protecting ourselves from World War III. That's what I think it's all about.
Yep. Agreed.
Mike, we have covered a lot.
I apologize to everybody for dropping the F-bomb more times in one episode than I ever have. Well, possibly. I was fired up.
I've gotten numb to it. I don't remember one time. Mike, when we first started really getting into the news and the politics, it seemed like we only had like 3 or 4 things to discuss. And now I'm literally juggling which stories to put up there, and each week I'm left with 3 or 4 stories that I felt like they were important. They just weren't as important as the ones we talked about.
Yeah, that's true. But there's always next week here on the Random Waypoints.
You want to remind everybody about what you got going on again, Mike? Because I thought that was awesome.
Baja 1000, going to be in the race coming up November 1st or 2nd week in November. But I'm going to try to get maybe the team owner and maybe one of my pit crew guys or somebody on our podcast. Well, maybe we'll try to get somebody on next week for at least a part of the podcast. And then I'm excited. I think Phil and I will work on something where we'll do a live podcast from the race. So
absolutely.
I'll figure something out.
No matter what, if you want to keep up with what's going on with this BAJA 1000 and what Mike is doing, we will definitely keep you updated every week on the podcast, at the least. We will.
That's right.
Anything else, Mike?
No, I think I have to take a nap now after getting all my blood pressure up here.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.